Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going to untangle something that can feel, well, just incredibly confusing and scary. The surprising link between feeling dizzy and feeling anxious. You know that feeling, right? Where you get dizzy and you're not sure if it's stress, or the room starts to feel off kilter, and suddenly your heart is racing with anxiety. If you've ever been stuck in that loop, you are so not alone. It's a real chicken and egg situation, and in this explainer, we're going to figure it out together. All right, let's jump right in. First, we have to talk about this powerful two-way street that runs between dizziness and anxiety. These two things aren't just related, they can actually feed off of each other in a vicious cycle. And let's get one thing straight right off the bat. This is not all in your head. Anxiety might start as an emotion, but it triggers very real, very physical reactions in your body that can absolutely make you feel dizzy. So how does this actually work? Well, a few ways. When you have a panic attack, you might start hyperventilating, breathing too fast. That actually reduces the oxygen getting to your brain, making you feel lightheaded. Or sometimes intense stress can cause something called a vasovagal response, where your blood pressure and heart rate just take a nosedive. And sometimes the connection is so direct that just feeling emotionally unsteady can make you feel physically unsteady too. Okay, so we've seen how your mind can affect your body, but let's flip the script. What happens when the physical sensation, the dizziness, comes first? Oh, absolutely. And this is where that feedback loop really kicks into high gear. I mean, think about it. Feeling dizzy is scary. You start worrying. Am I going to faint? What's wrong with me? Is this something serious? And what is that worry? Well, that's anxiety. And as we just learned, that anxiety can then turn around and make the dizziness even worse. So, we've got the anxiety piece of the puzzle down. But it's so important to understand that a lot of the time, dizziness isn't about stress at all. It starts with a purely physical issue in your body's incredibly complex balance system. And let's introduce the main player in that system, the vestibular system. Tucked away in your inner ear, this thing is like your body's own internal gyroscope. It's constantly telling your brain which way is up and how you're moving. It's pretty amazing. But here's the thing. Your vestibular system doesn't go it alone. Your sense of balance is really a team effort. It's a three-legged stool, right? You've got your inner ears, your eyes providing visual cues, and something called proprioception, which is just your body's natural sense of where its parts are. When any one of these three gives your brain conflicting info, you get dizziness. And that brings us to the really crucial question. How on earth do you tell the difference between dizziness from anxiety and dizziness from a problem with the vestibular system itself? Well, that's where we get into specific medical conditions. Now, this table is like a little cheat sheet for what's going on. Just look at the details. They tell you so much. Anxiety-related dizziness is often this vague, lightheaded feeling. But a disorder like BPV, that's a brief but super intense spinning sensation, what doctors call vertigo, that happens when you move your head a certain way, like rolling over in bed. And then something like Meniere's disease has its own unique clues, like hearing loss or ringing in the ears. The specific feeling, the trigger, the duration, these are the clues. Let's zero in on BPPV, because it's the most common cause of that spinning vertigo. It sounds really complicated, but the idea is actually pretty mechanical. You have these tiny little calcium crystals in your inner ear that are supposed to be in one place. But if they break loose and float into another part of your inner ear, they start sending faulty motion signals to your brain. It's literally a mechanical problem. Okay, so we've got different potential causes, and they all feel a little different. And because the treatments are completely different, getting the right diagnosis isn't just important, it is absolutely everything. And this stat really tells the story. It shows you just how tricky this can be to pin down. More than a third of people with these issues see multiple doctors before getting an answer. That's why being armed with this knowledge for yourself is so empowering. So for BPVV, the most common type, there's a gold standard diagnostic tool called the Dix-Hallpike test. It sounds intense, but it's a very specific set of movements where a clinician carefully guides you into a position to see if it triggers the vertigo. And here's the magic part. If it is BPV, your eyes will make a very specific involuntary flickering movement. The doctor can see it right there and boom, diagnosis confirmed. All right, and now for the best part, the really good news. Whether the dizziness is coming from anxiety or from a mechanical problem in your inner ear, there are highly effective treatments that can bring lasting relief. And this right here is exactly why getting the diagnosis right is so critical. I mean, look at this. The approaches couldn't be more different. If it's anxiety, You work on calling the body's stress response. But if it's BPPV, you need a physical fix for a physical problem. You can't meditate those little crystals back into place. For BPPV, that physical fix is something called a canalith repositioning procedure. It's basically a series of guided head and body movements. A trained clinician literally uses gravity to roll those little stray crystals out of the wrong canal and back into the part of the inner ear where they belong. It's simple, non-invasive, and can often provide immediate relief. It's incredible. Now, for other balance issues or even some leftover dizziness after a procedure, there's vestibular rehabilitation. Exercises like this one are basically physical therapy for your brain. By keeping your eyes locked on one spot while your head moves, you're helping your brain learn to trust your eyes more and rely less on the faulty signals it might be getting from your inner ear. So here's the big takeaway. The dizziness you're feeling is real, but to get better, you have to untangle the cause. Figuring out if you need to calm your mind or reset your inner ear is the absolute key to breaking the cycle and finally feeling steady again. And that brings us to our final thought for you. This isn't just interesting information, it's a tool. So think about this. Now that you know all this, how would you describe what's happening to your doctor? Instead of just saying, I feel dizzy, you can now say it's an intense spinning that lasts for 30 seconds when I roll to my left in bed. You see? That kind of clarity can change everything and get you on the path to relief so much faster.